Good afternoon and good afternoon. Oh my God, we're on the final furlong. Just 2 days left, just today and tomorrow left of this festival. It's been such a joy. And thank you so much if you guys have been with us for most of the 2 week festival. Today, I think it's a really important session. Over the years, if any of you have known TV Collective, we've run a number of accelerators with production companies, both for Channel 4 and Channel 5. We've got an announcement about an accelerator program that we're doing ourselves later on in the year. And the question of co-pros always comes up. Do's, don'ts, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Is it, should I be doing a co-pros? Do I want to do a co-pros? How do I get a co All of that stuff. So we've got Sarah Lynch from Mint & Co. Specialist in the area, who is going to take us through everything we need to know about co-pros. She's going to give us a presentation, and then in the end, there'll be an opportunity for us to ask questions. So please, while she's doing her presentation, obviously put your questions in chat or put your questions in the question bar so we can keep a track of them, and there'll be plenty of time afterwards to ask loads of questions. I don't want to take up too much time. So Sarah, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you so much. Good morning, Grayson. Grayson's from Canada. She's our person from Canada, man. We love Grayson. Good morning. Hey, good morning, Rajas. Good morning, people. All right, where's my manners? Everybody let's say hello. Let's say good afternoon, good morning. Let's greet each other. I'm so eager. I was so eager to get involved. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Vinny. It's good to see you. Grace, it's not actually morning in London. You're confusing lunchtime, but we'll take it, and we're glad that you're here. Yeah. Anyway, hi everybody. Listen, without further ado, let's jump into it. Sarah, I'm going to hand over to you. I know you've got some really important and some really informative information to share. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. And we're looking forward to this.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Simone. I can't see my slides. There we go. There we go. Now I can. Brilliant. Thank you. My name is, let me just check I can forward them. Yeah, my name is, as Simone said, Sarah Leach. I'm from Mint & Co. I'm a business affairs consultant. Mint & Co. are a business affairs consultancy. We work across all forms of creative content, products, and experiences. I myself have been working with indies for over 25 years. I started out at BBC. I worked at ITV, and my most kind of significant employed role was as head of legal at Princess Productions. So I am from an in-house indie background. I really understand how indies works, and I've been working with independents for about 10 years on a consultancy basis for everything from development, production, and distribution. So today we're talking about co-productions. So why is this important, and why now particularly? So in my view, the co-production market has never been more alive than ever, and in my view, more exciting than ever. I think this is because of challenging audience demands, global competition, and new financing models. We can't rely on traditional financing, 100% financing from broadcasters. We have to look further afield, and actually this opens up huge opportunity. And in the co-production space, there is that opportunity to realise creative and global content ambitions. And I think co-production allows that access. I saw Natasha Bondy speak a couple of weeks ago at an event. Natasha is founder of Little Gem, which is a factual producer. At the time, quite a small factual producer. At the time of this event, I'm about to tell you about. Natasha herself is a documentary producer. She became aware of the post-Office Horizon scandal and knew just that sense that that story had to be told as a dramatic production. But she specialises, or our company specialises in factual, and she knew that Little Gem wouldn't on their own be able to get a commission for prime time drama. So they approached ITV Studios, who came on board as a co-producer, and they subsequently got a commission from ITV, and it is the success it is now. And I think that's a brilliant example of how a co-production relationship enabled this amazing story to be told, and so successfully. So co-producing content can really pull together resources to create high budget content. It can allow collaborations across borders. So we're not just looking at co-producing with another UK indie. there's the potential to co-produce with production companies in other countries, which allows access to local talent, local financing, and also has the potential to create globally marketable content. And so I think it's really important to know what it takes to attract investors and to enter into a successful co-production relationship and from my perspective, agreement. The UK is known for its quality content, and I think UK producers are really playing a pivotal role in global hits, and it's good to know how to kind of harness some of that success. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time looking about how a co-production can attract investment. So this is, I don't want to. You guys know this better than I do. I mean, great ideas are always going to be attractive, but great ideas with global reach. So, for example, when I was talking about the across territory, working with producers in 2 different territories automatically increases your global reach, because you're working across two markets rather than just one, territory rather than just one, and then choosing the right partner to co-produce with. So again, when looking at global content, working with co-producers across territories automatically will have more global appeal. In the UK, choosing the right partner to complement the services you bring can be attractive to an investor. So as a package, when you've got a great idea that has the potential for global reach, and you're working with a co-production partner who either can accentuate that global reach or complements the content that you wish to create, that sort of as a package is going to be attractive to an investor. Taking advantage of tax incentives, tax credits, co-production treaties, and government funding like the UK's high-end TV tax relief. Researching these in advance of, or when you're kind of establishing your co-production that might need financing, researching these, looking at what might be applicable, can be attractive to investor because it reduces the financial risk, reduces upfront cost, and reduces their risk. So putting proper research into these, what might potentially be available up front, and then producing a well put together finance plan can help you get the attention of an investor. Ensuring clear IP ownership and exploitation rights. This is something we're going to look at in a little bit more detail. But investors want to avoid legal disputes over intellectual property rights. So these things have the potential to derail productions and potentially hinder revenues if there's a potential claim because somebody's exploiting rights that they don't initially have, or there's a dispute over. So when you're looking at setting up your co-production, and to ensure that you can properly pitch it to investors with a clear strategic distribution plan, the IP ownership and control over exploitation rights needs to be set out and agreed at the very beginning of a relationship with a co-producer. Aligning content with global trends and markets. Obviously, this is again trying to get that content really ready for, or the idea of this content really ready for investment and attractive to an investor. And it just aligns with great ideas, but content with wide audience appeal, especially across markets, is going to be more attractive to an investor than otherwise. And at the outset of your setting out your co-production, researching audience preferences, viewing habits, and content demands in key international territories can really help drive your content, but also provide proof to the investor that your concept, the content you want to create has the potential to really return on investment. So looking at all those sort of elements and ensure that they're properly researched and put together and established at the outset can really help when pitching to investors and giving investors confidence that that you're going to get a return on their investment.
Sarah, sorry to interject, but your
That's it.
mic seems to be a little bit crackly. I don't know if it's just me, but your mic is a little bit crackly. And I just wanted to, so I'm getting a little bit of disturbed
Okay.
when you're talking, so I'm not hearing everything that you're saying clearly, and I really want to be able to tune into what you're saying.
Of
So I
course.
don't know if there's anything you can do, but I just thought I don't know if there's anybody else. Is it just me? Just let me know in the signal or in the chat if it's just me. It could be just me. But Lily said, yeah, me too. Yeah, I think your mic's a little bit crackly, so we're getting a little bit. I don't know what if it's feedback or status. Yeah. So thank you. If we could just.
That's okay. I'm not sure what to do with that because it was fine when we were backstage, so I haven't changed any settings or done anything my side that would cause it to be crackly.
Should I pull you off stage and put you back? Let me, guys, bear with me. What I'm going to tell you is put Sarah backstage for 1 second, just 1 second, and then put you back on stage and see if that makes a difference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if that makes a difference. Because like we were just saying the same thing that seemed to be all right a minute ago. And then but we can hear what she's saying. If we can't resolve, we can hear enough what Sarah's saying. Yeah, we can kind of still plus. Well, if we can't resolve the crackly mic, then we'll just have to kind of plod along. But yeah.
Is that any better? I've just checked my
just like
Wi-Fi is better.
Just like magic, it sounds perfect.
Oh, amazing! Thank you. Wonderful. That's good. Okay.
See ya. Bye-bye.
So if at the end or any appropriate time there is something that hasn't made sense because you haven't heard anything, or if it hasn't made sense because I haven't explained it properly, please just let me know. I'm quite happy to go over anything again. But where I got to was where my involvement really comes in the co-production stage is ensuring that there are clear terms and a properly drafted co-production agreement to ensure that both parties know their responsibilities during production, that both parties are clear on what happens if there's a disagreement, and who is responsible for distributing the rights in the content being produced, and how each party is going to then share in the revenue. And it's really important at the earliest stage to agree these parameters, and it will really help facilitate a smooth production process as well as a seamless distribution strategy to enable everybody to kind of recoup investments and make some money from their content. Okay, so these are the topics, just headline topics of what we're going to just look at over the next few slides. Ownership and rights, so that's ownership in and the content that's produced and the rights around that, so the rights to distribute that content across various territories and various media. Contributions and financing, this is all about how your budget is going to be financed and what other non-financial contributions may be put forward into your production and therefore need representing in your co-production agreement. Creative control and approvals are key to a smooth production process. There will be stages where you're working together, where two parties or two or more parties are working together to create the content. What happens when there's a disagreement? This is a process that we would set out in, which will be agreed between parties and then set out in a co-production agreement. Revenue and profit sharing, I think we kind of touched on, but we'll go into more detail. And that's obviously about when the content's distributed, how you share the profits that come back to all the co-producing parties. And turnaround and reversion are clauses that deal with what happens when maybe your content doesn't complete production or one party doesn't deliver as per the terms of your agreement, and what happens in that scenario to the rights that you're left with. So they're the 5 topics we're going to look at. I am happy to take any questions that's specific to what we're talking about, or kind of in sort of any kind of more broad questions. We can save to the end, whatever, however you feel appropriate. So ownership of the content you create. When you as an individual producer create something, copyright is attached to it at the moment of creation. You don't have to register it. It exists by virtue of you creating a material which attracts copyright. So when you're the only person involved, that's a pretty straightforward process. You own it. when there's two or more parties, like there would be in a co-production relationship, the waters are muddied slightly and the lines might not be so equally drawn. And there are also other considerations to take place. There are other considerations to be made as to how that intellectual property should be owned between the two parties. It may be, and I'm sure you've seen it, where all intellectual property rights are assigned to one party in a co-production relationship, or they can be jointly owned. So they can be jointly owned if two UK co-producers are bringing kind of an equal value worth of services, funding, etc. It may be appropriate for both parties to have equal share in the intellectual property rights, so 50-50 basis. I am working on a co-production at the moment where there is a French producer and a UK-based producer. They're both producing the same content, but the French producer is producing a French version, UK is producing a UK version, there's also a rest of world version. The intellectual property in the French version is being held by the French producer, and the same is typical with the UK producer. So you can divide rights across different markets appropriate to where that particular content's being produced, who's in the best position to kind of own and control those intellectual property rights. So when I'm approached by a producer entering into a co-production relationship and thinking about how intellectual property rights are going to be owned, I will take into consideration various factors. A significant one is the proportion of each party's financial contribution. That is often something that might kind of steer the intellectual property ownership position. Also really relevant is each party's creative contribution and whether either party is bringing in any pre-existing intellectual property. So, for example, an option over a book, or maybe they've already produced a podcast and they're bringing this to TV, or whether one of the parties has created any previous work, like development work, like a treatment or a series outline. That's also very relevant to establishing ownership rights. Access potentially, so if one party has access to, I don't know, a football team or a band, which is going to be the topic of the content, and also if you've seen, where the territory in which each party is based, and market leverage will have a sway on who ends up owning intellectual property rights. And whilst that's not an exhaustive list, those factors cumulatively together will help understand or help put together a model for ownership of the intellectual property rights being created as a result of the co-production agreement. So once that's been established, that is the ownership position, but you also need to establish the control position, and that doesn't need to necessarily reflect the ownership position. So the control position is who has the right to produce. I mean, you probably will have had worked out who's going to produce the first series, but if there's a second series, third series, where do those production rights sit? Who has control over them? And then obviously the distribution rights. Who has control over distributing that content? And you may decide that it sits with different parties for different territories or different media. What you're always looking at this stage is who is in the best position to push those rights forward out into the market? Who has the relationships, the experience? Where are the bases of each company so that so that they've got the local expertise to be able to push these rights forward out into the market, with the view that everybody is aligned with, that ultimately you are looking to maximise the return on investment, on the return of, and a profit share back to you as the producer. So financing and contributions.
Sorry, it's me again. Your mic's starting to go. I don't know if it's your internet, but your mic is going a little bit crackly. It was perfect. Then it started to dip again.
Oh, gosh.
The last slide. I don't know if
I'm really sorry. I can only see that I've got like 5 bars but and I'm not moving, so I'm not sure why it would.
Let's try one more time to bring you off stage. If it happens again, we'll just kind of work with it. But let's see if we can one more time, because just coming off and coming back seem to have worked. So let's do that one more time. If that doesn't change it, guys, we'll just have, unfortunately, I'm really sorry. That's the problem with using technology, that sometimes it doesn't work in our favor. We will just kind of have to deal with it. But thank you. I won't interrupt again. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. No, please do. I don't mind. I'd rather we be heard. I'd be heard. I hope that's better. So financing and contributions. If your relationship with a co-producer starts at development stage, it may be that what you need to agree is who is going to be responsible for seeking financing from for your, hopefully, for the production of your content. And that is something that needs to be pre-agreed and attached potentially to a timescale. So if both parties are seeking financing maybe in different jurisdictions, at what point will you reach the critical financing level to enable you to move on to the next stage of production? And obviously that's usually tied to your budget. But you may also want to include a time frame, so that you or your co-production partner are not out there trying to get finance when you're a year or two in and effectively you're not able to get your production off the ground. But agreeing that at upfront with your co-production partner is key, as is the in-kind contributions. In-kind contributions are often things that underpin your production and enable you to deliver as per your financing agreements, commissioning agreements, etc. So these cover things like office space, production space. This is particularly relevant if you're a small indie partnering with a bigger indie and you are relying on them to provide production space, and there's no line for that in the budget, or maybe just they'll take overheads, but there's no particular line from their budget. But if you haven't got that, then you can't produce the content. Equally, if somebody's bringing has already got a talent, a key name attached, and they're bringing that relationship in, quite often your finance or your commissioning agreements will specify that key talent has to appear in the content for them to commission the content. So ensuring that you pre-agree what financing and in-kind contributions are going to be provided by each party, and setting that out in your commissioning, in your co-production agreement, kind of is key to ensuring that you can deliver the content, produce and deliver the content. Production fees, obviously, when you will have a production fee for your content, and establishing how that should be split between co-producers is important. Where there are two producers providing equal, providing different but complementary production services, it's quite standard to have a 50-50 split of a production fee. That might be your starting point, but then a negotiation might take place if one of the producers is taking more of the production burden, then it might be reasonable to suggest an increase in that party's share of the production fee. And lines in the budget, they need to be apportioned to usually the person or the producer who's undertaking those particular services, which means quite often that is tied to overspend. So if there's an overspend in that particular line, the party who isn't responsible for delivering that line of the budget isn't responsible for it. So you would attach your roles and responsibilities to ensuring you are entitled to receive that element of the budget, that line in the budget. But then if you overspend as a result of mismanagement of that budget, you are responsible, or the other party is responsible for the overspend. And these factors are all things that should be pre-agreed upfront at the point in which you intend to work with the producer, to allow production to continue smoothly, because everybody will have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities and how they're going to deliver that during production. Revenue and profit sharing is obviously a key one, because that is how you will share the profit you make when you're your content is exploited. Again, a traditional model where you've got two UK producers coming together with complementary production roles, your starting point is usually going to be a 50-50 share. However, this might be negotiable depending on various factors, and the shares may differ. So, for example, if one of the producers comes in with a great idea, a format idea, or that's sort of significantly developed, and then there isn't a sort of a significant amount of development that needs to happen before you go into production, we might try to negotiate a higher share of format distribution revenue. So, for example, from licensing foreign ancillary rights. So then you might look at more of a 70-30 share in favour of the party who did the work prior to coming into the co-production relationship to sort of compensate them for that work up front. Obviously, when you're looking at profits, there will be an element of a deduction of those from gross profits before a share is paid to each co-producer. And if there has been any significant development, so if you are co-developing the content initially before production and one party significantly invests in those development costs, there is the opportunity at this stage to recoup that investment before sharing profits from distribution. So what you're trying to do there is, if you've got two parties and one put forward some development costs that weren't recouped at any stage from any other third party, you'd want that party to be able to recoup them. So at the point you're sharing revenue, both parties are sharing revenue from an equal basis. Creative controls and approvals. Now, these are really important, actually, when you have two or more parties, to establish what happens if you don't agree. Usually in a co-production relationship, you will have different parties taking the lead in different areas, which should reflect where their experience, where their skills lie. So if you have one party who is responsible for entering into funding, distribution arrangements, commissioning arrangements, then you would expect both parties to mutually agree on terms. But in the event there was a disagreement over terms, one party should be appointed as the party that makes the final say. This is at this stage. This is so that you can, so you can, prepare yourself and continue into production. Because until you've got those agreements signed, you'll have no cash flow. So you need to kind of just have those agreements in place to ensure that you can get to that position. Otherwise, you'll be stuck forever in a potentially a development situation and never be able to move forward within the relationship that you wish to set up. Similarly, in respect to creative decisions. So I would expect both parties, particularly if you've kind of got two producing co-production parties, to equally approve, to mutually approve scripts and key talent and locations. But what happens when you don't agree? So again, you can look at, and obviously, usually the first position might be to say, okay, the more experienced producing party will have final say. But often when it's, there's a more experienced party and then a party who's less experienced, but maybe with the idea, the creative vision, you might agree that it's not a one party takes final say, that ultimately you deflect to the financier, broadcaster, in the event that you can't resolve any agreement. And the reason it's so important to have this is because productions can fall down if you can't move past a deadlock over a creative decision in your content. Before falling down, you might miss relevant deadlines, which are costly in a production schedule if you can't hit various dates. So these kind of processes really require an element of thought to work out, in this situation, What do we want to happen? Who is best placed to make these decisions to enable us to move forward with production, hit our deadlines, create the content that we've all envisaged to make, and ensure that it can move forward through to distribution stage as seamlessly as possible. Revision and turnaround. So these clauses purely deal really when things don't progress as you wish. A reversion clause deals with when maybe if you're in development and you don't get into production, or when you're in production and for whatever reason it doesn't, you don't finalise production and deliver. What happens to those rights? Well, a reversion clause will seek to put the parties back to the position they were in when they entered the relationship. So this is particularly focused and important if you're the party bringing the format or the pre-existing work on which the content is based. You want to make sure that if this particular project doesn't proceed to fruition, those rights and that original work that you brought to the table revert to you. And they're not tied up with another party, or they're not frozen, or they're not sort of stuck in limbo. And then they revert to you, and then you're able to go off in another direction with another partner and create the content. Turnaround clauses are slightly different. This is when production stalled or abandoned by one party, and it allows the other party to kind of rescue the project, and all rights in that content at that stage would revert to one party, and they would have the right to continue development, production, but subject to repayment to the other party of any costs, development costs, or spend or expenses that they've incurred up to that point of turnaround. So this is obviously coupled with, general termination rights around breach and insolvency, etc. But there are, again, two particular clauses that deal with situations that aren't uncommon, but again, unlock or prevent you being in positions where you're locked in a situation where you're tied to another party, you can't free up the content, and you can't move forward with the project. And I guess particularly if you're the party that brought this great idea to the co-production, you want to ensure that it can be released back to you, and you can continue, as I say, in a different direction. So the future, where are we going with co-productions? Well, I think we're already there and moving forward at quite a rapid pace. Global collaborations seems to me to be the biggest shift at the moment, and is a real positive shift. It's a good way to say we're moving away from traditional broadcasting, and that's nothing to worry about, because I think it's opening up so much the availability of so much more funding and models and new revenue models and new financing models that's allowing high budget, globally accessible, globally attractive content to be produced by parties who may not have been able to have access to the level of funding or the level of expertise or the cross-territorial benefits of working with another producer in another country. So it's exciting, and coupled with that is technological shifts, new ways to collaborate, distribute and monetize content through technological shifts, and working with partners who are the forefront of these new ways of accessing content is allowing producers more avenues to get funding, to get expertise, and to get their content out to a wider audience. And because we're talking on such a global level, we are showcasing the UK's production talent across the world, which I think which is a great thing. And again, it's just a catalyst to more of this production, this investment, in co-production coming back into the UK. I don't think I might have skipped past it at the start when we kind of had a few glitches. I don't think I mentioned that in 2023, co-production in the UK investment in co-production UK rose to 38.9 million pounds, and that just shows the validity of the UK production market. And a lot of that is driven by international collaborations and obviously domestic spend. But I think it highlights where this is going. It's building. It's certainly a good space to be in and to look to being a part of. So my practical tips in terms of focusing on establishing a good working practice when entering into a co-production relationship is timing. It's so much harder, so much more costly and time-consuming to focus on any of the issues that I've spoken about when they present themselves as an issue. When you're entering into a co-production relationship, the intention is to have a brilliant, strong working relationship, which hopefully will transcend beyond, one 6-part series. It will go on, and there'll be, more content, further series, etc. Distribution, in every country, in perpetuity. And so because the potential is so far-reaching and potentially way into the future, agreeing all these details at the start is imperative to ensuring that whole process runs smoothly. Because it doesn't work to agree it when things go wrong, because the relationship's usually broken down by then, and that's when productions fall down and the content suffers and the producers suffer. So getting these things nailed up front is so important, and having those clear communication negotiations with your co-producer. Everything we're talking about isn't about one party winning and one party getting a better deal. What it's about is reflecting each party's skill and experience, and having a fair deal that represents that maximizes on those skills and experiences, that then is reflected back in the control and the approvals and the sharing revenues, so that you're all working together in a way that it feels fair and everybody's incentivized to make this the best they can. So focusing on those terms we've discussed, like rights, financing, revenue shares and creative control, is imperative, and then drafting that into a co-production agreement is crucial. So getting things agreed over email, get some heads of terms agreed, work out how you want to work, and then translating that into an agreement that both parties can enter into, so that when you start your development, your production process, you have clarity, and that means smooth and seamless production, distribution, and then profits.
Thank you. That was amazing. So informative. That was like a real kind of great overview of how to kind of deal and kind of work with on co-pros and how to kind of navigate them properly. Please, guys, have you guys got any questions? Put them. Everybody's clapping and giving you lots of giving you lots of love. If there anybody got any questions, it's really important that this session is for you. So kind of ask any questions that come up. I can't believe that we've only got a few minutes left. So please, if you do have any questions, make sure that you answer them. People able to get in contact with you if you want to get
of course. My email address is there. Yeah, drop me a line. I'm happy just to kind of follow up anything that comes off the back of this. Drop me a line, and I will just do my best to kind of just respond and give you a steer on where you need to go, in terms of like how to progress where you're at, if you're stuck or if you're unsure on how things should be worked through, how a situation should be worked through. There are 1,000,001 different ways of structuring a co-production, and the key thing is everybody needs to walk away happy. Like this isn't a commercial negotiation. There is no win or lose. Everybody needs to win, and therefore it needs to be fair. So you should never feel, oh, if it,
no, we're here. She just
check the screens. We should never feel like we're we're entering into a bad deal, or we should never feel like, oh yeah, I've got one over somebody. It really, really should reflect the circumstances, because this is a ongoing working relationship, and it's a creative relationship, and you can't create if you are at loggerheads. You need to unlock all those things so you can work together.
I think that's really powerful, because I think oftentimes you do feel, particularly, and I think that the message is the same in terms of commissioning, that it's a kind of them and us kind of situation. But this idea that actually it's a collaborative and we're working together so
Totally.
everybody gets the best of this situation, I think is a really powerful position to start with. And when you're talking to somebody to say that, you know, everybody wants to be treated fair. We've got a few questions coming in. Sharon, can we see that question? Budget overspend and a co-parent. Could you recap on that, please?
Yeah, of course. So what I would do in if I was advising you in your co-production agreement on overspend, I would look at what lines of the budget each party is responsible for and that have control over. And then I would say, okay, so if you go over, and I translate this into the agreement, if you go over budget on your line because of bad budget management, you are responsible for that element of overspend. However, if we mutually agree as co-producers that there should be an additional element to the production to make it something that it wasn't before, and that funding is not coming from a third party, you then might agree that you share in that overspend together. So I think there's a difference between overspend, which you both agree to incur because of it's going to be an amazing addition, compared to budget overspend, which is an actual kind of just a mismanagement of the budget. Obviously, if you're doing approved overspend, the first thing you want to go and do is talk to your financier and commissioner and say, I've got this great idea. It's going to really accentuate this element of content, make it more attractive to viewers, make it more sellable. Can we have some additional funding?
Yeah.
If that's not forthcoming, it may be a decision between the co-producer to say, okay, we want to go with this. We will fund it ourselves equally, but then we will recoup that anything we fund to the budget, so almost like a budget deficit, we will recoup before we share in net receipts. So that you are both back in the position that you were. So when you start to share in net receipts in a co-production relationship, you should both be at the same financial position when you start to share. So if one party's invested in development or production, that party should get 100% of net receipts due to producers before you share, because that makes it equal, that makes it fair.
It's just that we hear a lot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's just that we hear a lot that if you're the smaller party, but you've brought everything to the table creatively, that you almost have to give that away. And that because I heard it in one other session, because the other company is taking the financial burden, will have the resources and so forth, that therefore it felt like, I think maybe that was in terms of production fee, but also that was a reason as to why they used that. They said that is that because, well, if there's an overspend, what happens then? You can't take that burden of that. So it's interesting that you talk about the kind of what you can do from the recoupable end of things.
Yeah. Are you saying that if there's two production companies, one's smaller and one's bigger, but the smaller production company is handling all the day-to-day production, they should be responsible for any production overspend?
No, it was more that the smaller company have come through with the ideas, and they become maybe one of the exec producers, and they would potentially be one of the producers as well. For example, if it was me, I'd want to produce it as well, but I understand that a commissioner would want me to come in, would want a bigger company to come in and oversee that, and exec with me, but so I don't have the resources, but I've had the starting point of development, pre-prod, taking it through production and doing the co-production. Maybe I'm thinking about a co-pro with companies, whereas you're thinking more internationally.
No. So as between a finance, so if you're co-producing with a financier, or even if you've just got your broadcaster, if you are responsible for day-to-day production, then you are responsible. Part of that is budget management. Yeah. And if you mismanage the budget, then that is your responsibility. However, if if one or many parties come together and say, we want this additional element to the production, that needs to be paid for by somebody. Otherwise, it won't happen. And that has to be agreed. If you're not managing the budget, you shouldn't be responsible for budget overspend purely by reason of you having brought the idea to the table. That doesn't make sense. What you will be responsible for is ensuring that what you've brought to the table is clear copyright wise, that you're either the owner of it or you've licensed it in to enable production to commence, and they will expect a warranty to say that if that's not the case, you would be liable, and that might be financially liable for that. But I haven't seen it, and I wouldn't expect you to be liable for. There's no connection between you bringing in an idea and the budget overspending. The budget overspending.
But that, I think the correct connection they make is that that's a reason as to why that you won't get sort of say production fee or rights or back end. That they, you know, it's that excuse that they use, because I couldn't bear the brunt of it, of overspend, which I might not have mismanaged.
So what we're talking about is the risk. That they're saying we are assuming all the risk. You cannot assume the risk. Therefore, that's the reason for justifying assignment of rights. And that is a situation. I've never heard it framed in that way, pinned on overspend. But that is a reality when somebody's putting forward the majority of the finance, is that they will expect to take, you know, probably the intellectual property rights and maybe other benefits that you.
Is there a way to be able to sort of fend that off? And also, I feel like I need a session with you, so I'm going to ask like how much it would be.
I'm mindful that there's a few more questions and we're meant to.
Okay, sorry, I'll come back.
Let me just finish. Yeah, absolutely. And what you want to do is make sure you're tied to the life of that. Tied to the life of your idea. Whatever happens, whatever that company does with it, they take your rights. You need a clause that says you're locked in to that to benefit from that, whether it's an in-person role or a net receipt role. That's how you tackle that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. No problem, Sharon. That was amazing. I think that we all benefit from that question. I know that we were meant to finish. Have you got time for a couple more questions? Is that all right, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. A question from Janet. Janet, I'm gonna maybe I won't invite people on stage just to keep it quicker.
If you own the project.
Yeah, actually I will, because we should let's utilize this time properly. Janet, if you can come on stage, come on. If you can't, don't worry, just ignore the invitation.
So that's interesting, and it's definitely unfortunately I'm going to be really annoying and say everything is a project by project decision. However, I would suggest that if you are a producer who has entered into an option which you are then taking into your co-production relationship, that is what you're bringing, and that is part of your leverage in negotiating your rights. If for any reason you enter in at development stage or production stage and that content doesn't reach fruition, so maybe you're on an option, you enter into a co-development agreement with a view to getting financing. If it doesn't reach production, you want to have that reversion clause that says all rights in that option revert to me. So ideally, you don't want to transfer that option to the co-production relationship until you're maybe securely in production. However, if you do, you can still have that reversion clause that says, look, I've entered, these are the rights that are going into the production. They will be handled as per the copyright position we've agreed. However, if anything happens and we don't get to production or we don't finalize production and the content is made, these aren't rights that are going to be co-owned. These rights will revert back to me. And so that you then can control them and take them elsewhere with another company if it doesn't get to where you originally envisaged it would. Does that make sense?
She didn't come on stage, but I'm hoping if just let us know, Janet, in chat. Oh, Janet's here. Say.
Sorry, I was trying to come on stage, and in that process I missed half of what you said. I'm so sorry. My video, I don't know how to make the video work, so apologies.
Don't worry.
I think you said trying.
Yeah, sorry, can you just give an overview again? Sorry, I'm sorry, just repeat again quickly.
Sorry, Sarah, thank you.
So I understand. So you have an option agreement. You've entered into an option agreement with a third party, which you are bringing to the co-production relationship. Let's say to the project, to the co-production project. There's no one size fits all. It's a project by project basis answer. As a general rule of thumb, I'd say don't transfer the rights in that option until you are fully funded and at production stage. And in any event, regardless of whether you are whether it's development or production, so whether you're kind of pre-fund or post-fund, I would also always ask for that reversion clause. So in your co-production agreement. So for any reason you don't reach content production and delivery, if your commissioner pulls out, your financer comes out, you haven't transferred your option into a co-ownership position. You still own them. And if you have transferred them, you have that reversion clause that says if this doesn't reach production or isn't fully produced, the rights in that option agreement revert back to your company. Okay, so in summary, the first position is no, don't assign them over to the co-production. But if you're kind of in a position where you feel you have to, for whatever reason, ensure there's a reversion clause so that if the content doesn't reach fruition, those rights revert back to you. So when you walk away, having not produced any content, you haven't lost out on what you brought to the project in the first place.
That is really, really helpful. So essentially, it's not unreasonable to say I'm not handing over those option rights; they're mine.
It's not. It's a discussion and a negotiation. And if it is something that develops and you do, just have this fallback position to say, okay, fine, we're going to have all rights sitting under one umbrella. That's fine. But if this doesn't reach fruition, they come back to me.
Okay. That's really helpful. Very, very helpful. Thank you so much. Sorry I couldn't make my camera work, but that's really helpful. Thank you.
Just like to hear your voice. We had a question from Isaac, but that question seems to have disappeared. Lily, do you know that question? Can you jump on and tell us what that question was? Is that question being needed to be asked? I'm not sure. Lily, let me know. Also, people are asking how they can get in contact. We've had a long-standing relationship with Mint for a long time. I've worked on and off with Mint for about 10 years, probably longer. So we have, I know there's a preferential rate that we had arranged a little while back that we have for TV Collective members. So we will kind of share that information. So if you guys do want to contact Mint, you can do that and obviously have that preferential rate. And also I'd encourage you to just get in contact and have an initial consultation or initial conversation, and they can give you guidance in terms of if they can help, how they can help, and what that would look like.